Hello, I'm going to do a quick hands-on video, or might be a long hands-on video, that goes over using Master Server Toolkit with the Fish networking library. I've been using this for a little while now. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm just going to share what I've been doing with this library in hopes that it might help others get started a little bit quicker with this great uh, tool set that's been made available to us. Um, so to get started, I'm going to be using Fish networking as I show here on this documentation for the Master Server Toolkit. And to get started, I'm going to be using Unity 2022.3.4 F1 here. One thing to note is to get this running, you'll need to ensure that you have a couple modules installed. Here you'll see that I have Linux support because I plan on creating a different video to show how to build and run this on a Linux server. Also Windows build support and Windows dedicated server build support, which you'll also need to have installed if you want to follow along. So um, with that out of the way, I'm going to create a new project. Um, and with this project, if you're following along, you'll want to select a project that includes the URP core. So I'm going to use the 3D URP core template. As you can see, I don't have it downloaded yet, so I'm going to do that now. And for this, I'll name it something like, oh, let me pick a better location for this. Uh, there we go. So I'm going to name this, I guess, MST Demo 1. So I'll click Create Project. Okay, so now that that is finally loaded, what we'll want to do next is uh, set up the editor a little before we start adding Master Server Toolkit and FishNet to it. Master Server Toolkit requires the .NET Framework API. There's a couple things in the API that it uses in the .NET Framework that's required. So to do that, what we'll need to do is from our Unity editor, go to uh, Edit, Project Settings, and then go to Player. And then after we get to Player, we want to go to the Configuration setting. Now, if I can find this, this would be great. Oh, here we go, Configuration section. So we'll leave this as mono, but we'll select .NET Framework. And then save. I think we click apply somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe it's automatically saved. I guess this is what happens when you don't do a dry run for your video, but hey, I guess we'll let the Unity engine cope with the settings that I just added, or changed. Now with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and add FishNet. So to do that, I'm going to go to FishNet's uh, GitHub repository, go to releases, and the release that I used that was successful. I'm not saying that the latest one is not successful, but just so that way we don't run into any snags, I'm going to go down to the one that I've already done this with maybe a month ago, and that was 3.10.4. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get to that one. So it looks like, yeah, we want 3.10.4, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the Unity package. So I'm going to click on this and download it. And then what we'll want to do is, now that we have it downloaded, we need to bring this in and import it into our project. So to do that, we'll go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package. We'll browse to that Unity package we just downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and leave everything selected and click Import. Okay, with that imported, the next step is to add the Master Server Toolkit. And for that, I'm going to go to the Master Server Toolkit repository. I mean, sure, I think you could try to use the one that's on the asset store, and likewise with FishNet. But I mean, what I did is I used what was in the repo itself. You get later versions and stuff, the latest versions and patches and stuff when you get the stuff from the repo, from my experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and clone this repository. So, and here I'm just going to go ahead and use, I guess, git bash. Well, I guess git bash is not doing that. But wait, it's 11:17 where I'm at. So, you know, my brain doesn't work too well sometimes when it's this late. Okay. So now that we have the Master Server Toolkit, we're going to go ahead and bring this into our project. And to do that, well, I'll minimize Firefox here. So to do that, what I've done with my own experiments is I would open the assets folder from within the Unity editor. So right click on that, click Show in Explorer. So here we're in the Explorer view of the Unity project. And then, here I'll go ahead and move these left to right. So here's our download of the Master Server Toolkit. And on the right hand side is our Unity project. Now, what we'll do is go into the assets of both of these, excuse me, and then simply drag and drop this into the assets. I'm just going to move it. And then once I close these Explorer windows out and activate my Unity engine, the Unity engine editor will detect those changes and then do its thing to bring that into the project and update metadata files and all this other stuff that it needs to happen to get it integrated. So we'll wait for that to happen. All right, now with that done, I think the next thing is I would like to get out of the way bringing in other dependencies. So Text Mesh Pro is also a dependency, and really the way that I bring it in for this particular uh, use case is I'll just go to Master Server Toolkit and then click on one of the scenes that has a dependency for it. So I know that the Bridges FishNet uh, rooms and lobbies scene for the client scene, rather, has a dependency on that. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I should get prompted to import Master Server, to import Text Mesh Pro. So here that dialog is. I'm going to import those here. And now that those are imported, I'll close that dialog box. And next thing to do is, from my experimentation, I found that I would need to update some compiler directives, or symbols as they're called in the Unity editor. So to do that, what we'll need to do is go to File, Build Settings, and then what we'll need to do is select Dedicated Server for the platform, and then click the Player Settings button. Bear with me as I fumble my way. We'll look here. That's what we're looking for. Script compilation. So what we want to do is add FishNet in all caps to the scripting defined symbols. Uh, and we'll click apply. Once again, let Unity cope with these changes. Now that it's done, we'll close out of that. Then the next thing to do is let's build all the things. When you bring in um, Master Server Toolkit, it adds a few extra items to this tools menu. As you can see, we have a Master Server Toolkit as an option here. So what we'll want to do, since I'm working with bridges, with the FishNet bridge, I'm going to select Build Bridges, FishNet, and since I'm interested in the basic rooms and lobbies for this particular video, I'm going to select that. Now what we're going to want to do is build three things. We want to build the client, the master server and spawner, and I'm going to select the headless room. That's the difference between headless and normal is if you select normal, that's going to show like graphic things like the map, the level that's loaded and everything. If you select headless, that's just going to be command line console, which is basically what you want whenever you're uh, building something to run on the server rather than in, like, say, debug mode, because it takes less and processor and it's cheaper to run on a server, right? So to kick things off, I'm going to go ahead and build the client. Okay, now that the client is finished, it's showing the folder that it was built to. I'm going to move this over to the side, and we'll go ahead and keep building these things. And you don't have to build uh, everything to test it. You can actually run things in the editor while testing, but I think first things first, just seeing these things being built is helpful before we start really using the Unity IDE or whatever. Okay, we have the master and spawner built, so the next thing we want to do is build the headless version of the room. So now that we have our room, our master and spawner, and our client builds all done, let's get these started and see what happens. So we first want to run the master and spawner. Now the master and spawner, which is what we see right here, the master is basically kind of like the hub of what everything connects to kind of uh, get everything connected together. Like players are going to connect to this first to go through matchmaking and that kind of thing and request rooms to be spawned and that kind of stuff. The spawner will also connect to the master server, but this build actually has both the master and the spawner scenes built together. You can build these separately and run those on different machines if you want to, but for simplicity, really this is combined together for now, so that way we're not having to run everything uh, in development mode. So we have our master and spawner running. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and be done with that, but let that run here. But now we want to have two clients. These are people playing the game. So we'll double click this once. Oh, this is going to take up the full screen. Great. You know what? For the sake of this video, I'm going to rebuild this. Maybe I need to go to this other platform. Well, when you're out of the dedicated server platform and you're on the regular Windows platform, the resolution and presentation is actually available. So, anyway, I'm going to select windowed here. And I'm probably gonna go ahead and bring this up in shortcut and cut out the time that I took to fumble my way to get here. But anyway, so player resolution settings windowed, so that way we can actually see these things side by side. So now that we have that set, let's rebuild the client. All right, so let's review now that I finally have my bearings. Okay, so our our master server and spawner is running right here. So now we want to open up clients. This is, like I said earlier, this is going to be like the players connecting. So here's the first player, and here's the second player. So let's go ahead and sign in as guest. Great. Now let's look for games. Well, no game found, so let's create a new game. And this kind of happened off screen when I clicked create a new game. It spawned the room. So what happened was the master server and spawner got that request when creating a new game, and it went and it started a new process for that room.exe that we built. So now this is our headless room running that will execute the games server-side logic, like like here you can do the authoritative server-side stuff uh, when you start, building your game. So anyway, we have this room ready to go, but then what we'll do is, oh, it creates the room here, but when you want to, after you've selected you want to create the room, you actually need to join it. So here, the creator wants to join this room, which is a little bit different behavior than you kind of used to, but anyhow, we're in our room now, as you can see, but let's get this other player to join as well. So we see this room that was created, so we'll join it as well. And here's us looking at it, looking at each other. Hey, yay! And then anyway, here's our two players in a room. Congratulations.